Hello everyone. Just wanted to make a year-end review of how the garden has done. It's September 1st right now, and we just went through this season a fairly significant drought, very little rainfall, very hot temperatures for Zone 4B in New Brunswick. And right now, the garden isn't looking the way it would normally look at this time. In previous years, we would have abundant rainfall. So with the drought, things are a little bit stunted and a little bit behind schedule. And in addition to that, my main focus was to put in a permanent physical barrier using some old vinyl siding and a small lip of wood along the top to give it some rigidity. So I was working on that for most of the time, and I didn't really bother with the garden itself. But with only, in the last month, 8 millimeters of rain, we got 8.5 millimeters of rain since the beginning of August. And the garden is still doing pretty good. So I've got tomatoes here, and they're finally ripening up. I harvested pretty much the majority of my Egyptian walking onions. The cucumbers, they're still coming in now. Squash, they're starting. And they've been forming fruit for the last little while. In some of these little areas here, like this one, hasn't done very well, but I scraped off the top of the soil here, basically leveling off and terracing the ground over here. So this area here is a little bit deeper, and so is this area because it used to be a trough. And so the squash in this area are doing much better, along with the tomatoes. Corn over there, I'm surprised it's actually growing anything, because that used to be the old oregano bed, 40-foot long bed of oregano. So I ripped out all the root systems of the oregano there and recovered everything with needles and leaves, and so there's no real soil there, it's just sand. Corn's growing pretty good, and I'm actually going to get a few ears of corn off of that. So that's pretty good. I've resown some lettuce for some fall lettuce. And going through here, and again, 2 small rain showers. One was about 4.5 millimeters of rain, I believe August 14th or 13th, and then 2 days ago got another 4 millimeter sprinkling. Everything's pretty good. So yeah, I'd say the garden, as far as being drought resistant, I think I have the evidence here to make that bold claim that even with a complete lack of watering and almost no rainfall, there are areas of the garden that have done very well. So I'm happy with this. So I'm thinking next year, I know I'm not just going to let the garden tank it out. I'll actually bother myself, if we're in another dry year, to actually water the garden and try to have a better crop harvest. I wasn't really too worried about getting a harvest this year, but everything's looking great. And I'm going to have squash for storage. I'm going to have tomatoes for canning. Got all the leafy greens I want. So yeah, all the herbs doing really good. Egyptian walking onions, I still got more to harvest. So yeah, all in all, I'm pleased with the garden. So Carbon Blanket Garden is drought resistant, and that's the proof right there. Alright, thanks for watching. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my main focus is to actually finish putting in a permanent physical barrier around my annual garden, and also surrounding my whole garden, which would include the fruit orchard. So that's what I've basically been doing. So this area here I had covered for, well, since last fall, I've had this area covered with black plastic because the entire area was completely overrun with sheep sorrel. So completely covered with black plastic all the way over into the pathway too, up in here. So I've recently removed the plastic, and now I'm working on this side, putting in the wooden border with the used vinyl siding on the outside there. So I've got half of it done, and I'm just working on the other half there, and you can see over here in the fruit orchard area, it's another 40-foot length of garden beds. And the cherry tree and the royalty purple raspberries have pretty much grown right over and onto what used to be a 5-foot wide pathway space. So I'm going to be working around that. That's going to have to be trimmed back quite a bit. But you can see just had the black plastic sitting here, string line where the in-ground border is going to go. And yeah, this is going to be a little bit interesting, but shouldn't be too much trouble. So I'm going to try to put in the border the entire way through, but obviously right along the property boundary edge, I'm going to run into these willow trees here. So I'm not going to have a continuous boundary. It's going to be broken up a little bit once I start hitting into these trees, and I'm not going to take them down because they provide some excellent shade for some of my propagation material here. So those are my Red Lake currants. I got about 20 of them in there, and they've done pretty good here in the shade. So I'm going to keep a lot of these shade trees here. So we're going to try to work around this, get up as close as I can with the border, and for whatever's left in here, I'm just going to have to watch and manage this and try to keep the weeds from creeping in from the outside perimeter area in this little corner. I think I can manage that. As long as I don't have to do the entire perimeter and try to keep weeds out of the whole thing, just managing that one little spot in this corner won't be too bad. Just keep it stuffed full of needles and leaves and I think I'll be fine. And then I'm going to continue it along the back side here. Give myself an extra foot or two of space, clear some of that stuff out, and put the border in back here. And I'm going to continue that all around the fruit orchard now. So once that's finally in place, and I know that this is going to be clear of weeds from now on, I'll finally be able to use the fence line and put up some grapevines, probably some Arctic kiwis, something, and use that as a living wall trellis that's going to provide food. And I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's the plan, that's the project, and that's what I got to finish up this year and get this done. And yeah, then I'll truly have a fairly weed-free garden. And then I don't have to worry about all the crabgrass and the sheep sorrel and stuff creeping in here and trying to strangle out all my plants, which seem to be pretty healthy, and I don't think they would suffer too much from that, but I don't want to weed. I'm going to do this, and the whole reason for doing this is to put that work and effort into the beginning, one and done. Once that siding is in the ground, that's going to last me 20, 30 years, you know, the rest of my lifetime really. And then I can just sit back and enjoy, literally, the fruits of my labor without actually any more labor. So that's the plan. All right, thanks for watching. Hello everyone. Basically I just wanted to take note of this large sheet of black plastic I picked up at Home Depot, I think it was, the paint section. And it's 9 foot wide, and it was 100 feet long, and I cut it into 2 sections, so 50 feet long. I got 2 of these now. And I just wanted to note that when I don't have enough needles and leaves to actually cover and smother the ground, or if I'm waiting on cardboard, that's never stopped me from starting the process of smothering the garden beds and the weeds there, getting ready to make garden beds. And for a very, very low cost, and with the coverage this gave me, I was really able to do most of this garden in a relatively short period of time, just section by section, and converting it over into cardboard covered with needles and leaves as I was able to gain materials. So this has been the game changer of allowing me to fast track a lot of things in the garden to get to the state I'm in this year. And I do believe I got this back in 2019, possibly 2018, and I've been using this same black plastic now for 6 years or more. And I gotta tell you, one of the best investments I have, because not only has it been used in my garden, but it's also being used in the community food bank garden, and you get a lot of life out of one sheet of black plastic. So anyways, I had a video a long time ago when I peeled this off the cardboard that I had laid down, and I had this hanging up on my bean wall trellis. And interestingly enough, the cardboard that was stuck to it back in 2019, 2020 is still here to this day. I think it's glued onto the fabric of the material here. But yeah, just wanted to document, take note, and say that if you're looking to build a large garden and you need to fast track it, but you don't quite have the materials, it's not fall yet, you don't have needles and leaves, well, there's no reason to let that hold you back if you wanted to try to build a no-till garden like this. Eventually it will turn into the carbon blanket, but in the meantime, black plastic works. And then, of course, when you get the organic material, hey, just replace the black plastic with your shredded needles and leaves, and you're off to the growing races to get yourself a lovely looking garden like this. At least I think it is. Alright, thanks for watching.